Say that
if
again. Say
what
that
every
again.
man that I know who's out there really killing it, what he wants above all things is he wants to be appreciated. He wants to know that the people he is putting on the line for appreciate and see his sacrifice. So the disconnect comes with, if you really understood who I am to this family, there's no way I'd have to prep you for taking care of me for Father's Day. And that's where we get our feelings hurt. And I'm not trying to get sentimental, but we get our feelings hurt because when you talk about, people say, I'll die for you. No, like your dad, he'll die for you. And it ain't even a second thought about it. It's no stuttering. It ain't no, oh, if they come in here Boston, he jumping off the balcony. He ain't jumped off of 2 steps in 10 years, but he coming off the balcony so that you can have a chance to live. And if they truly understood how you breathe, sleep, and eat for the family, there would be no disconnect, and then we wouldn't get our feelings hurt.
Welcome to Off the Kuff from the About That Life podcast. When it comes to getting healthy, there isn't just one way. This is where health meets real life. Join us for honest conversations and hard-hitting discussions about the real issues affecting our communities, and men in particular, today. It's time to challenge the usual answers, confront the uncomfortable questions, and approach health from a different perspective.
This is Dr. Vets, and new episode, new series. You remember the About That Life podcast, but what we had to do, we had to just take things out of that format. That's still there. It's still there. The challenge is we understand that there's 2 right ways to get to a goal. There's the technical way, the science, but then there's also the way that sometimes hits you in the gut. And with this conversation with my co-host, my partner in crime, so to speak, my partner in getting you where you want to be, is going to be called Off the Kuff. And this is where we just get together, we talk about issues, topics, and what we're tackling today is something that's pervasive in society. I looked at the numbers, it's no surprise, but we're not going to tell you what that is. I want him to hop on, introduce himself. Like I said, this is a totally different format. We'll go to a live format, probably in the next couple months or so, but right now we just wanted to get you all exposed and acclimated because it's going to be a little different. So this ain't the same question and answer we received. A couple of folks commented through our social media networks on different questions and issues that they have, but I'm gonna let him hop on in. OBD, go on ahead.
Absolutely. It's your boy JR Roland, aka One Bad Dad. I'm excited to be back again. Last time we had a great time, Dr. Batch Travis, AKAs that I ain't even going to explain to y'all. Maybe as we continue this podcast on, I'll reveal some of his AKAs at a later moment. But no, I'm excited to be back here. It's been my mission for a long time now to bring my level to the best optimal level that I can be as a dad, as a Black man, as a father, as a brother, as a man in the community. And now I'm turning that outward, and I've teamed up with Dr. Travis Batts, and this is what our mission is. Like he said earlier, he's going to give you the technical jargon. He's going to tell you the things that you should be doing. And then there will be times where I'll have to tell you the way you need to be told. Because again, you hear it and then you need to hear it. And there's nothing that I'll ever say to you, anybody listening, there's nothing I'll ever say to you that I wouldn't say to myself. That's the one thing that I want to make clear. A lot of times people say he's giving harsh criticism. No, I'll tell my fat A to get up off the couch, just like I'll tell you the same thing.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming.
I just told my daughter today, I can control my cursing. I choose to curse.
I mean, because, again, this isn't live yet, but when we get live, I'm sure we're going to have some people hopping in, that's talking slick. And again, my concern is the vitriol that you're going to give them.
Are we on FDC approval? Because I feel like, we get demonetized on YouTube. You may have to cut me loose, and then I'm back selling on the block.
It's about the brotherhood. It's about the brotherhood.
Okay.
And that's really, and I mean, you touched on it, right? We talked about, being great fathers, being good fathers, and understanding that there ain't no blueprint, because you got variability in the kids, you got variability in your spouse or significant other, you got variability in your environment. So we know that it's never a cookie cutter, one size fits all. But let's hop into it. So I reached out to JR because I felt some kind of way about the concept of Father's Day. Not that it's bad. I mean, we've heard JR, I know you had talked about your dad, one of the best that ever did it. My dad, he was literally the smartest person I ever knew, right? Passed the test. They wouldn't let him do the dental school thing. So he went a different route, didn't get to be a dentist, but then he went on starting businesses. I mean, just a great man. Unfortunately, he succumbed to the ills of dementia. But, overall, I mean, up until that point, I mean, he was always constantly teaching. And, when I look back, I literally just cherish the time that I spent with my dad, right? Everything he taught me, from reading the map to navigating to really learning how to move in that space. But Father's Day rolls around every year. And I hear the same thing from brothers and friends. And I will say, this Father's Day, my family did show up, which
They showed out.
they,
They got your boy right.
well, hold on. When I tell you what I got, the thing is, I was just happy to get something. Most Father's Days, I get the gift of time. You know what? We're not going to ask you to do anything for us today. Am I getting something? No, you just happy you get your time. That's what you get. Right. And so I was anticipating that, but I came home. I think I was on call that weekend, and my wife was like, "Hey, you got to be home by this time," which was like 9-10 o'clock at night. So I come home, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. I get in, I open up my office door, because that's the first place I stop, just to literally just decompress from the hospital. And it's like all these stacks of things on my desk. So I'm like, man, I don't know how to feel at this point. So the little tear was like right at the corner. And I just wanted to jump in, but I knew they wanted to be surprised that I was surprised, that they were surprised that I got surprised, right? So needless to say, they were like, "Hey, let's hold up." So I sit down, and they gave me a gift card. Cool, get some groceries or whatever. I take that. And then it was these boxes. And I'm like, So it was, now again, I know it's going to sound off-putting, it was cookware. Seems like an odd gift.
It
but
does, because I've never known you to be the chef. So take me, bring me where we go.
Yeah, but see me, I'm just
Roller
grateful
burgers.
that I got something. So it
Mhm.
was cookware. It was top line, state of the art. But I have been dabbling, not so much
Okay.
now in the kitchen, earlier on, right? Because, as you know, I'm vegan. And so I had to really kind of branch out. And I do a lot of the cooking for the family. So I would cook these complimentary meals where all the sides would be vegan, and I make 2 different protein options. So and again, it wasn't that, man, they got me cookware. It was, and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, look, on the show, I'm going to talk about what y'all got me." And she was like, "Well, tell them I got what you always get me." And I'm like, "What you mean?" She said, "You get me something that you want, that I won't use, that you're going to ultimately take." And she did. She got the cookware.
My
But I was
sister's
just happy
smart
to
over
get
there. My
something.
sister's like, mhm.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, so I was just happy to get something, but I know that there's a lot of brothers, and like I said, we got some messages on social media where Cass was like, "I ain't get nothing." I got the same card that was drawn, which again, we appreciate the drawn cards. We appreciate the little, that's great. But I can tell you, on Mother's Day, man,
Better set it
yeah,
out. You better come out the pocket. You better come out the pocket.
you getting years supplies of nails,
Even when you come light, when you add it up, you ain't really come light.
you ain't
Like
come
my wife
light.
was like, "Just take me to the nursery so I can get some plants. I want a couple flower pots." And you look up, you like, "I'm about 700 in."
7
Oh,
hundos. Yep. Yep.
on like a couple plants and these flower pots that you like, and then I had to get the Waffle House for the whole family.
Whole
Look, the
family, not
family's
just
big.
couples. It was
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah,
Yep.
dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll add
Nah.
up quick on you on Mother's Day.
So I'm gonna say, so why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's this discrepancy that I think has just been largely pervasive throughout history? I hate to say history, but why do you think that is?
I'm gonna tell you where it came from. We have to take the onus for this one.
Okay.
When you are raised by a man, we both had our fathers in our life. The number one thing, the first thing your dad teaches you when you're a little boy, he say, take care of your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of your mom. Christmas time would roll around, my dad would be like, I'd be like, "Dad, what you want for Christmas?" He'd be like, "Take care of your mama." Everything was always take care of your mama. And so even to that end, right now, my mother lives with us. She has a suite upstairs. It's always been take care of your mama. So it's so easy to overlook the needs of dad. And dad is so used to putting that off. Like we never want to be seen in a way, because I find myself, what you want, what you want for Father's Day? I don't want nothing. I don't want, and then when they get you nothing, sometimes you want them to show the initiative, but you've conditioned them. You've conditioned them that it's mama, mama, mama. Because you had made a great point one time we were talking. You were talking about all the two-parent households in the NBA, and everybody wants to thank their mama. Everybody wants to thank their mama, even when mama wasn't with them shooting in the gym.
Exactly.
But daddy was with him shooting in the gym. And daddy would tell him, even though we ain't here shooting in the gym, mama holding it down at home. So daddy was always speaking to the significance of the role of the mother. And where we
Exactly.
fall short, or where we catch the short end of the stick, is a lot of times, not all the time, because I ain't trying to get beat, but a lot of
Don't
times,
do that, man. Don't do
right,
that.
yeah, violence is not where it's at. But a lot of times, mama's not at home preaching the significance of the sacrifice of dad.
That
And
is.
that's where we get our feelings hurt.
Yeah.
That's where we get our feelings hurt. Because every man who's killing it and giving it his all, what he wants more than anything is to know how much he's appreciated. And
Say that
if
again. Say
what
that
every
again.
man that I know who's out there really killing it, what he wants above all things is he wants to be appreciated. He wants to know that the people he is putting on the line for appreciate and see his sacrifice. So the disconnect comes with, if you really understood who I am to this family, there's no way I'd have to prep you for taking care of me for Father's Day. And that's where we get our feelings hurt. And I'm not trying to get sentimental, but we get our feelings hurt because when you talk about, people say, I'll die for you. No, like your dad, he'll die for you. And it ain't even a second thought about it. It's no stuttering. It ain't no, oh, if they come in here busting,
Mhm.
he jumping off the balcony. He ain't jumped off of 2 steps in 10 years, but he coming off the balcony so that
Doing
you
it.
can have a
Yeah.
chance to live. And if they truly understood how you breathe, sleep, and eat for the family, there would be no disconnect, and then we wouldn't get our feelings hurt. But who wants
Yeah.
to go around, Travis, saying, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that? We don't want to
You
be
can't
that.
you can't do that as a man. You can't go around, cataloging the stuff you do, right? It was one of them times, and I ran the numbers right real quick. I said, okay, average US spending for Mother's Day is about 40% higher, than Father's Day. We talking billions, right? But let's say 30, 40 billion for Mother's Day, 20, 25 billion for Father's Day, right? I'm still surprised that average cost per person, you're looking at $200 for Father's Day. You're looking at almost $260, $70 for Mother's Day. And I'm surprised there. Participation definitely higher, on Mother's Day. And if you run the numbers, it's almost like, and I think part of it is like you said, like men, and I'm gonna talk about me. I got a tough time of asking people to give me something for doing something. You ready for this? That I'm supposed to do anyway, right? Whether they appreciate it or not, I'm gonna do the dad thing. I'm gonna do the husband thing. I'm gonna do the provider thing. That's in the DNA. Like, I don't want a cookie for doing what I'm supposed to do, but at the same time, a gold star for effort, right? A E for effort. Hey man, we appreciate
Here's
how
why
you
I got to
holding it.
stop you, though, because
Go
I'm
ahead. Go
exactly the
ahead.
same way. But listening to you say it, I don't want a cookie for what I'm supposed to do. That's me all the way. But when you go into work and you only do what you're supposed to do, you get a check. You know what I'm saying? You get
Okay.
a check.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't need no promotion. That's different. You ain't got to give me no merit badges, no gold stars, no plaques, no desk awards. I don't want to do office in the corner. I want my check. Run me mine. So I think when we say things like, I don't need no cookie for doing what I'm supposed to do, but I do need mine.
Yeah.
I
I
do
do need.
need mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you talk about spending, because you were talking about spending, with men, you're not really concentrated so much on what's being spent on the gift, but the thoughtfulness I think I told you this once. Like I
Yeah,
had
yeah.
this
Say it again. When
whole
your daughter, yeah, say it.
yes. So I had so that's another one. I know where you at with that one. But I had this situation a couple years ago where I was probably in the darkest place mentally that I've ever been in my life. I am a compartmentalized king. I can compartmentalize better than anybody. I do it so well, Dr. Batts. I read an article that said if you do it too well, you're close to being schizophrenic. So I had to make sure that once a week I live in what's actually going on. That's how well I compartmentalize. But I found myself just trudging through and being high level for everyone. And I was at an office where I was the only Black director in this Fortune 500 company, but I deserved more. Like I should have. It was clear. And the reason I couldn't get more is because they would have to share stock with me. And so I would be battling that where people would be showing me the respect, but me not getting the cookie, me not getting the cookie that I deserved based off of the effort I was putting in. And then I'd come home and I'd be required to be all these things to the family. And so I had a conversation with my wife and I said, do you think LeBron James comes home to as many responsibilities as I come home to?
Mm,
I said, I'm only asking because I said, I understand that my feelings are not facts. And that's my quote. My feelings are not facts, but they are my feelings. He's the king at the crib. I'm sure Savannah don't got him cooking meals. I'm sure Savannah don't have him cleaning up. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
keeping it a beat. And I'm
Nah,
like,
that's what we have in this. This is why off the cuff is off the cuff.
absolutely. So I'm like, I understand that the easy answer is, well, you don't make as much as LeBron. So then is my value based off of what I'm able to bring in financially? Because I know for a effing fact, watch your boy, I could have used the real word,
I
didn't.
appreciate it. I
I
appreciate
know
you
for a
dialing that back.
effing fact that my effort is every bit, if not more, catered and focused than LeBron James. So why is the king coming home and acting like he's a gesture? Why am I
Hey,
making sure things are getting done? Why am I'm doing the predominant this and that? And me and my wife, we had to work through that. And I'm glad to say that we overcame that. But when you don't have a way to verbally express how you're feeling about things, then we also leave the wives on the hook for things that they can't quantify for us, and our children are mature enough to see.
man, that's what the challenge there though is, right. And we talked about this a little bit, like, and it's actually I was at church, right, and so and I'm gonna say I had this epiphany, but there was this conversation about things that someone doesn't do or didn't do, and so I said, you know what? Have you ever thought about how many times, and this was to a young lady, how many times your husband has asked you to do something? And she paused for a minute, just took a pause. I said, now, on the flip side, how many times have you asked him just today to do something? And she looked and I said, that's just it. He not that we gon' keep moving. Now again, the challenge is as men, how do we verbalize that, right? When you talked about the space you and your wife were in, I'm sure most folks, after you've been married long enough, you kind of get into these grooves, and then sometimes you start grooving more than the other person. You're like, hey, ain't we supposed to be on the same, what's, and then how does somebody address that? Because that's the challenge, right? A lot of people like me, I'm gonna just be honest, I don't like conflict. I don't like, the adversary, because it takes me back to a version of myself that I used to be that's buried way down deep inside, that I say, you know what? Let me just fall back. This concept of perpetual accountability where I have to reevaluate if I approach a situation correctly. And that's why I like off the cuff and I like the two different ways. I am so stuck on politically correctness. I think that sometimes it is to my own detriment, right?
See,
Where I say things and then I want to say it one way, but I'm like, and it's not crazy stuff. It's just, I don't know how people, because if someone tells me something that I'm not doing correctly, guess what I do? I reevaluate, I look at it. How do I create a process where this doesn't happen again? Versus when I tell other people, hey, this isn't happening, it automatically turns into vitriol and anger. Well, this means this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's about process improvement. It's about
Well,
being a
see,
high
you already
reliability
understand that
individual.
though. You understand that. I say
Yeah.
criticism is always, what do I say? I say criticism is always like something that you can grow from. Like, unless it's just straight ugliness, criticism is always something you can learn from. You even in sports, I don't think he, rebounds very well. Well, if I'm hearing that, I can go back and I can look at my stats and I can look at the games, and there may be some truth to that. There's always some truth to even criticism, but when you ask the question, how do you have that conversation with your person? First of all, you've got to make a pledge. And one of the first pledges I made to my wife and my family, I want you guys to know me. I want you to know me so well to where if they say I did it, you know if I did or not. And when I die, I want no secrets to be revealed to my children. I want them to know my dad. But the flip side of that, because follow me, the flip side of that is when you know me, then you know my heart. I want you to know me like God knows me. So when I say something to you that may sound one way, I don't always have to preference it or cuff it or try to massage it because I've put in enough work with you and opened myself to you in a way to where I should be able to say some things. And you know that I'm always coming to you with love. You the queen. There ain't no other way I'm coming to you. And if I'm feeling, again, because feelings aren't facts, if I'm feeling a way and I'm letting you into how I'm feeling and being emotionally intelligent enough to say, take my hand, listen to me on this, then I trust you with my feelings. And I trust that I don't have to decide I'm gonna have to go sleep in a hotel tonight because I didn't say something. I'm mad, I'm hurt, but now you mad at me for being hurt. Because when we were young, when me and my wife were young, that would be the thing. I say, I can't get mad because if I get mad, you get mad. And now we're in conflict because I was hurt. I came to you with the issue, but you're mad at me because I had an issue. Growth. We've been married 20 years now, so it's different. But early, it was this, am I going to allow this woman to know me like that? And so that's been the difference.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it talks about this relational nature, right? So where relationships got to be real, and the other component they got to be personal, right? And I think a lot of times as men, and I'm like I said, I'm talking to me, it's hard to open up to a certain level because okay, how is this going to be received? Like, and I do these mental gymnastics where I think about how to say things a certain way, and outside of the profession. So if I put it in the professional space, right? So love the place I work. Let me say that. But it did take me a little time because I'm used to the military environment where everybody is even they create an environment where everybody's seen as a team member, a valued member that will add. Now, that's true in the hospital, but it is such a, how do I say this, paternalistic or the doctor is right type of place. I felt like the staff sometimes wouldn't offer information where I'm saying, how do I make this process better? Now, take that same ideology and put it in the space of at home, right? You can see a process or there's something that's just bothering you, but understanding how to articulate that in a way, and maybe it's just saying it, right? And that's something that, like I said, because I don't like conflict. I don't like how, like, you know me, Nuke. You already
I've
know,
never
right?
seen you beefing with anybody.
And
Now,
there's a reason for that.
I've never seen you shy away from some sparks if it
Yeah.
had to get,
If it had to get
gritty.
sparky,
Yes, but I've
but
never seen you be confrontational with people. I've never seen that in you. And I've known you
because
for 30 years.
yeah, cause I know what that looks like and I know what that can go to, and it doesn't take long for that. And so, and I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure there's a lot of men that say, you know what? I'm just not going, I'm not going to get out there because I know me and I'm not trying to do X or do Y or do Z.
But
How
what
do
we
they
do
dial
though,
that back?
but see, here's what we do. What we do is we think we are letting them off the hook, but we're not being good partners to them the way that they are to us. Because every man I know who has a good wife will be quick to say, she makes me better. She
That's true.
challenges me. You hear it all the
Yeah.
time. What was
Yeah.
different about her? She challenged me. She didn't put up with my whatever it was. You know, hey, look, y'all on the pod right now with with two legends. I'm just gonna leave it at that. With two
Yes, sir. Rock
legends.
chalk.
So
Rock
yeah,
chalk.
so the ones who got the ring from us, the first time I met his wife, I knew she had to be that woman because I know him. I said, she must got the goods. She must have, that extra inside of her. And so we're quick to praise our wives for making us better men. But then we want to drop the ball when it comes to making them better women. And part of being a better woman is having a strong man who will tell you what you need to hear. My dad was a soft spoken man. My mother was the firecracker. But I remember distinctly there were a couple things my mom couldn't say jack about. Like when it came to the direction of the family, my dad would be like, "This is the direction we going," and he go in his room and close his door. He just, "This is the direction we going." You be like, "This dude is not the dude who do this." But when
Yeah.
it came to his children or what we were doing as a family, that as for me and my house, that verse,
Bam.
man, you better
That's
know
a
it.
wrap.
And
Yeah.
he would deal with whatever came. If that meant moms wasn't talking to him for a month, well, hey, then you ain't talking to me for a month because God put me as the person responsible for the outcome of this crew. And I wanted to clear up something I said quickly earlier. A lot of times we are in our feelings, and I don't say that in a sarcastic way, in a way that is trying to make a man feel feminine. But sometimes we are in touch with how we are feeling, and one of the mistakes we make, and hear me on this, Noop, the biggest mistake we make is we then discount all that she's doing. You and me, we don't understand how it is to sit still. We can't. Like, if they knew what time it was right now, they'd be like, why y'all and what day it is? Like, you guys are just always, always, always. So we can see what we're doing. But sometimes you have to go through your house and you have to make an account of all the things your wife does that you never even know about. My house smells great. You know why? Because every freaking 2 months or so, she's online ordering the Bath and Body Works fragrances and dog spending about $300 and putting them all through this house so that when you come in, it smells
It's
inviting.
welcoming. Yeah.
I don't know nothing about that. I know, well, sometimes I go to the grocery store. There are so many things that happen between her and my daughters that even though I feel like I've got a pulse on everything, I have no idea about. I'll come in. So Leah's getting her hair done tomorrow at 2. And even if I'm the one paying for it, it's like that's the woman who was thinking about it. That's the one who was making sure your children were representing the family as they went out into the world. So I feel this way, but I don't want to get carried away and make my wife feel like she's not doing just as much. Because, man, as much as we're doing, sometimes you got to sit and think about it. She running hard too. She
Yeah,
running
no.
hard too.
Yeah, no. I mean, don't get it twisted. I mean, and I think what people don't understand, for me to have the level of success that I have, and I'm not bragging, I'm blessed. It is literally knowing that I ain't worrying about if my kids turned in a paper, if my daughter, went to volleyball practice or went these privates or did whatever. It is that all that stuff is done, like the management and the pieces of that. And I do appreciate those components, right? That is supposed to happen. But then again, and we talked about this when we had that 2-hour conversation when I was in the car, get my son to college. Well, what about the other components, right? How do we articulate? And I think it's like you said, it's communicating openly and doing that. And like I said, as much as I can tell a patient their their overall cardiac risk and give them this broad plan, me figuring out, okay, what do I truly need? How much space, how much, decompression time do I really need? And I think relearning those things because it changes, right? At different points in time in our lives, what we need changes and evolves. And I think as we get the update, we got to update the people around us, whether as friends, but definitely, our spouses or significant others in that space. So,
That's the realest thing you said though. As you get older, you evolve and it changes. And when you get the new update, when you get the Travis 2.0 update, the Travis Sienna, and you was on OS 10, now you on OS 15, like there has to be a pop-up so that the whole family can see I'm updating. I'm updating. So when I shut down and come back, I'll probably be working on a different operating system.
Yeah, I
So
like
there'll
that.
be some features that remain from the past, but there are going to be a few new features. It's funny, case in point, a good friend of mine, it was a big volleyball weekend. It was nationals. His daughter hit she hit the game winning kill, and he jumped over the sign. And I told him, I said, boy, you jumped over like you was 16, but you landed like you was 45. Instantly, he pulled a calf muscle. So he pulled his calf.
Golly.
I mean, immediately he pulls the calf. So he come up limpy. I'm already knowing. But the thing is this, it's like you updated your system, but you didn't tell the hard drive certain things you can't do no more.
Can't do no more.
You can't do no more. And my daughter was like, "What that happened to you? Because you work out all the time." I was like, "I can't call it." I said, "But guess what? I'm not jumping over no sign. I know
I'm not
I,
doing
I
that.
probably could. I
That's
probably
not
could
gonna
do it.
happen.
But yeah, I'm gonna stray away from trying. If I do try, I'm gonna stretch first. How about
Well,
that?
but, when we stay, and speaking of that, man, I'm proud of my niece. I mean, when I saw my wife actually saw the post first. She like, "Hey, did JR holler at you?" Woo, woo, wah, wah. I'm like, "Nah, what about what?" He's like, "Oh man, man, if you want, man, announce to the world this load you've taken off your back, the recognition outside of her environment that said, hey, look, you something special. We want to see what you bring to our organization, man. Go ahead because again, I know mom coordinated a lot of that, but I know from a workout, fitness, how to prepare as an athlete. I keep telling my daughter, as an athlete, I'm not eating for taste, I'm eating for performance. I mean, if it tastes good, that's a great byproduct. But how did you do that? How did you get there? Because like I said, my oldest daughter played Division I. Again, worked with her, did that part. What was I know you had a lot of pieces in that puzzle, but go ahead and enlighten all of us.
Well, man, first of all, I appreciate it. The reason I didn't hit you is because I was asleep. It was like after it was over, it just felt like I could rest, because the
Yeah,
grind, the struggle.
definitely.
For people who don't know, like my daughter, she just, committed D1 volleyball for BCU, Bethune-Cookman University, and she's a libero. And for people who don't follow volleyball, libero is the defensive specialist on the back row. So imagine like a free safety in football or something like that. But the thing that makes it so difficult is from a size standpoint, you're the smallest on the court. So from a recruitment standpoint, if 500,000 girls play high school volleyball every year, only 1% get a D1 scholarship. And I'll take you a step further. Of that 1% that gets that D1 scholarship, we just went through the list of the top 400 players for a class of 2027. Only 10 of 400 are DSs. So a school will only keep one libero, and the rest will have to pay their own way. So this was a huge accomplishment. Aside from that, because I'm extremely proud, you asked the question, how did I get this done? My daughter tells me when she was like 11 years old, she started to really love this sport. And we go back to teamwork, talking about the wife combination. My wife played in high school, so she knew a bit more. Well, she knew a lot more about volleyball than me. I'm watching the game, and Olivia's not getting the action I want her to get because her daddy, like, I get to the action. Now, mind you, when they're 11 years old, all they doing is passing back over the net. If the ball come to one person, it's real slow. But I wanted her to like be killed. I wanted her getting kills. I wanted her getting kills, some blocks. And my wife looks at me, she says, when the last time you looked at how tall you are? I was like, man, I'm jumping out the gym. She said, you ain't you. She was like, she ain't you. She's gonna play libero. And that was the first step into making my child successful because I had a lot to say about it. But even though I had all these things to say, I took her lead because she knew. And immediately, as I started to fall in love with the game, I noticed how many similarities there were to a defensive specialist in the position I played, cornerback, defending. I'm like, footwork, sliding. And I told my wife, I can make her athletic. So my wife gave her to me. She literally gave me my child. She would come out with us, and sometimes I would be so hard on her at 12. At 13, my wife just go in. But she never stopped us. She never stopped us. She never said, "You going too hard." I mean, literally, Travis, when we, right now she can get on a ladder drill and she looked like she Ocho Cinco out there. But when we started, I started her on a piece of tape going down the line. And I said, it's just like dancing. We just cha-cha. 1 foot over, 1 foot over. And I've got videos where I said, we just dancing. We just dance. And progressively through the time where I even tried to pay a lot of, you pay private lessons. Volleyball is a very expensive sport, but I tried to find coaches who would commit to her. So like you, I've been fortunate to where I have a bit of means, enough to do these small things. I try to pay for people to dedicate to my child. And because she played defensive specialist, they didn't find the significance in a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old. And after a while, somewhere probably around 14, I cut it all off. It's me and you 3 days a week, 4 days a week. We bought nets, we rented gyms, we were outside. Last week she was nervous. She's nervous because we've had 3 other D1 recruiting situations where they didn't pan out. So she's nervous. And I started to take her around the city. And she's like, what are we doing? I said, the reason I'm showing you all these places, these are all the places me and you trained for weeks on end. I used to put a piece of tape on the elementary school wall, on the outdoor wall. I put a big strip of duct tape before we had a net. And I'm teaching her how to serve on the duct tape. I taught her how to be faster on the hill behind the house. I took her to the abandoned hill next to another building where they got a strip mall where we would run up there and I'd ask her, what was she? And she'd say, I'm agile, mobile, and hostile. I said, will you ever quit? She said,
Damn.
no, sir. We want some more. We want some more. So I started taking her all these and recalling. I said, do you remember all this stuff? She's like, oh my goodness. I said, and I'm saying all this because you've done enough. And you'll never stop learning. You'll never stop getting better. But I want you to know that you've done enough to go down here to Daytona and get that D1 scholarship. You need to know that you've done enough. And I made sure you've done enough. And so I couldn't be more proud of her. The family is extremely happy. And, you know the volleyball circuit. My niece is out there with the butter hands right now. So
Yeah.
you back in the middle of it.
Oh, back in the mix, man.
You know the tournaments, the time, the tears, the quiet car rides home. You're checking on your child's mental health because she's a true competitor. Just like my niece, she's a true competitor. That's why we like watching. Like, no, she's there to win. This ain't no cutesy stuff out here. These
Yeah,
are
no.
women warriors,
No,
And
definitely.
so for us to get to that point, it was a big deal for the family. So thanks for bringing that up, man. I
Oh,
appreciate
of
that.
course, because I think it's important, to have that, punctuation at the end of the sentence when you get to start that next paragraph. And then now it's about, okay, we got over that hurdle. We're good. How do we prepare for that next phase? And we'll save that for another show because that's a different phase, right? Because I remember with my daughter, we got the call, we got it. It was like you said, both my wife and I tell you, my wife was on the grind. Now, on the training side, I got it. I got the training. I knew I used to have a gym. Before COVID, I had a gym. I had Vertimax. Still got the Vertimax. Still got Raptor. Got Functional Mobility certified. Got Raptor certified. And I was still, I still was training like my football guys and different things like that. But I had my daughter doing in there, getting the vertical up. And once we did it that way, what I didn't know was the backside of it. The emailing the college coaches, the going to college camps. Like that was something that I didn't know because again, my recruiting pathway in high school was my high school coach was an Olympian. I was on a team with a couple of world champions, Olympians. And so we all, and I was a track guy. So the pathway was easier. And now my wife's like, nah, we got to email this coach. We got to do this. We got to do that. I'm like, man, literally, I think I can't say almost 400 emails my wife sent out back and forth. I'm working, so it's like you said, sometimes it's even though my wife wasn't in the gym, because I used to call the gym the gridiron. I purposely would not make it cool in there. It would be hot, kids be passing out, but I like, you got to do this. My wife was not coming in the gym, not the gridiron, right?
No, yeah, you ain't got no air on.
I ain't got no air on. When I was
Yeah.
going to the track in South Texas, yeah, wife not coming out there. But what she was doing is at night, she emailing coaches, this region, that region. And what I'm saying this because, when you build that team, that recruitment team for your child, whether it's in sports or to get to college or to get to other places, right? It's about picking the things that you do really, really well. You and I love being in the gym. We love training. I love the concept of nutrition, right? So that's what I'm good at. So that is my gift to make that part of the process. On the flip side, you still got to do the politics. You still got to do the emails. You still got to, build the YouTube page, get the clips out, do all that stuff. So what I'm saying is it's about a teamwork type thing. It's not any one thing. No one position is any greater than any other ones. They all got different roles, right? But if all them roles don't work together, then it's a challenge. So again, kudos to you. Kudos to your wife. Definitely kudos to my niece for putting that
No,
thing
man,
together
I
and making it
appreciate
happen,
that.
man.
You
No
said
problem.
something, though. You said something that we should make very clear for any man out there listening, any woman who may be listening to our podcast. I've got a friend, and she's a physician, and her daughter is 2 years younger than mine, and she played up this year, so she actually played against us a couple times. Her daughter loves it. I can see it. And she says, you know what? I know my baby girl loves it, but she's going to be a doctor. So, like, I'm not even really so much focusing on this. And I said, I got to stop you. I said, because simply because many physicians are ex athletes, not because of that reason, but a lot of times we confuse a goal with a dream. And as parents, we have to be behind our child when they're chasing a dream. If my daughter says she wants to be in sports medicine, right? And she wants to have a position, she wants to have a clinic. She wants to be like her uncle Travis. That's what she wants to do. So there is a road to that. And if you follow these steps past these tests, you will be that. That is a goal. If you check these boxes, it will happen. But when it comes to a dream, there is no straight path to a dream, and you need a bit of luck. You need perseverance. You need long suffering. You need a team that's going to push you, and you still may not reach that goal. The dreams don't come to those who work hard. You see, that's the difference. And when you have a child who has a dream, remember when you were a youngster and you had a dream. And remember how now you don't dream anymore because everything is reality and everything you do is calculated. But if you said tomorrow, I want to be a Hollywood movie star, that's a dream. And you'd be scared to chase it because you know the probability of that dream coming true is not likely. Well, our children, they don't have that mind yet. So they get a dream, and it's up to us to teach them how to chase something and pursue something until the final ball drops. And that's
Exactly
the
right.
message I want to give everybody listening. I understand that maybe they haven't got what they, especially in sports, maybe they haven't got recruited yet. And maybe their recruiting class, every time you look on the internet, somebody else is recruited and somebody else got an offer and this, that, and that. Until the final ball drops, you keep going.
Keep on. Yeah, no, and that's huge. I mean, and again, you said it. We gonna close out, but it's like I said, it's goals and the challenge, and and I get this a lot. Like, well, you can't do medicine and sports, and I can go down the list of a lot of my colleagues in cardiology and internal medicine and pediatrics and OBGY that did, right? Simply because success is about building a process, trusting a process, and refining a process. How do you get to be a good athlete? You do the mundane things over and over and over again. Same thing with medicine. And so the challenge comes is that a lot of our kids don't, have any, let's say, built up structures where they get challenged, right? Because we create these pathways that are perfectly laid out. Whereas sports, you can't do anything about the person in the lane next to you. You can't do anything. But what you can do is, okay, they beat me. Okay, I got beat in this part of the race. It's like you said, that accountability piece. taking what you learn and reapplying it, adjusting, tweaking your training, adjusting. Hey, am I getting enough sleep? Doing all those things like that really make a difference, man. This was a great conversation. We're going to do this every month. I told you, once we get the live calling, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to see how it works out. But man, I loved it. This was therapy. This was therapy right
absolutely.
here. I loved it.
You need
I loved
you need it. You need it. I was looking around, making sure the wife wasn't around. I was like, I don't see nobody. All right, let's speak freely. No, absolutely, man. No,
Nah,
seriously.
man. Man, you got anything you want to leave them with before we cut out?
I'll leave them really quick. Again, this is always enjoyable. I'm extremely excited to be a part of this and get to at least do my part with giving back. But you spoke to the process. And as men, we all have to have a process. And I know we're going to get into that deeper. But whatever your process is, work your process, work your plan, and then feel free to exercise the opportunities to express yourself to the people you love, because that's how we find ourselves in early graves, pinning up all of these things. Then don't get married. I mean, don't get married. Don't devote yourself. Don't have children if you don't want to give all of yourself. And all of yourself means I'm also giving you my emotions. And there are times where I've got to have at least one place where I can express myself. And unfortunately, baby girl, you signed up for this. So here we go. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, man. Beautifully said, as always. Super articulate in the space where understanding that accountability is about balance. It's give and take. And like I said, this ain't a relationship. This is just talk for men, really, and for anybody that really wants, things said two ways. Like we say, this show, Off the Kuff, is about hearing it both ways, the right way and the other right way.
Thanks for joining us here at Off the Kuff. Catch more real, unfiltered discussions right here. Or if you're looking for trusted health education in a more structured environment, join us on the How About That Life podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, we want you to live intentionally forever.